start this video, I just need to put a disclaimer out there that everything I'm about to cover does not include any confidential information. I have spoken to the right people and I have confirmation that everything I'm about to talk about will be fine and it is allowed to be used and shared with you. Things do differ at different publishing houses as well, such as the marketing and publicity teams at Bloomsbury might be completely different to Penguin Random House. Similarly, they can be different even just between divisions, so if you're working in children's or if you're working in academic. Hello and good morning. Excuse the absolute state of me. It's about 7:30 and I need to get ready for the day. So I joined production at Bloomsbury in October 2019, and before that I didn't really know what the job entails, and so I'm hoping that this video will help any publishing hopefuls, for example, know a bit more about what production do as a department and more specifically what a production assistant is likely to do on a day-to-day basis. I just want to add as well that of course this is specific to my experience at Bloomsbury, so production assistants in other areas and even divisions will differ. Production assistant at Hachette, for example, might be completely different. Obviously there's going to be some main similarities there, but this is basically just taking you on my journey of what I do on a day-to-day basis. So one thing that I need to mention, just in case you're not already aware, the difference between backlist and front list. So front list titles, for example, are any new titles, any titles that haven't come out yet or have come out in normally the last year. And then backlist titles are all the older titles, so anything from 10 years ago or even just like 1 year ago, like as soon as it's normally 1 year. And then anything, basically from a year ago, that's then classed as backlist. So I am in the office today because it's a working day. I'm lucky enough because I still live with my parents, and so because my mother works predominantly from home, she has a dedicated office in which there's a spare desk, which is quite messy, won't lie. I mean, I would tidy it and be like, yeah, I'm super organised and it's always this tidy, but realistically, it's not. You can tell it's serious business when the glasses come out. So this is one of the first stages, is when you need to create the P&L. Luckily the system that we use does that for us. And then you can see here for this title it's got all the costs in detail, and that's just basically pulled through from the system. So I've just been sent the print instruction from the inventory manager. I've got all the costs on that and sent off the P&L, and then once that's approved I'll get on to the next stage of processing the reprint and typesetting and getting the cover designed. So I actually have 2 screens now. I like to have my emails on this big monitor and then predominantly work on this computer just because the keyboard's here as well. So it's a lot easier to look at that screen and then type at the same time. I genuinely don't know how I survived without 2 screens before. So this morning I've basically just been working on reprints. So I was sending stuff to the printers, like booking in is what we call it, when we basically tell printers that, they've got files coming in the next week or so and we want them printed.
That's gonna be glory.
I had to put a jacket on because I'm freezing. I'm about to update the design team as well to say like here are the new spine widths and the edition numbers, and so like ready for the covers to be made. So I've just kind of been spending some time catching up on my reprints. It's a bit of a weird time because I've had some urgent ones come through, so that kind of throws off the usual schedule. So for example, Mondays for typesetting, Thursdays for booking in, Fridays for sending to press. We also do buy-in sometimes as well, so I've just been contacting a university that hold like the files for a reprint that we needed, so I've just put in an order for that. I haven't really got anything urgent today to do, so we'll just be catching up on like invoices. So that's the update. I'm probably going to need a cup of tea soon to wake me up a bit, and move on to a bit of POD, print on demand, in a second, to catch up with some of that before Christmas. One of the key parts of my job is working on print on demand titles, and this is basically where it's not necessarily a very popular book, and so we don't want to order a load of copies to just sit in the warehouse and never get sold. And so it's basically getting print ready files ready for like small quantities. So basically my job in production is to get the text files together, to make sure design have done the covers, so I normally have to do like the cover templates for this. POD, like reprints, also requires typesetting. Metadata is really important with POD because our POD printers will tell us when the metadata is wrong. Like if you submitted it at 234 by 156 millimeters and the metadata is actually like 216 by 140 millimeters, like they're going to pick that up and they can't print the book until obviously it's correct. So that's what we call weight specs, when it just basically means errors. So it can be, you know, there's a problem with the cover, or it can be the metadata. So yeah, so sometimes I have to deal with weight specs with POD as well. Obviously that's normally quite rare because you normally do the job properly. But you know, some things are like out of your control. Another key thing with print on demand at the moment as well is what's called destructive scanning, and this is, like it says, you scan a book destructively. So you order a hard copy of a book and then you'll go through each page and scan it and then like throw it away, whatever, like they rip out the page, scan it, etc. So this we normally have to do if we don't have any books left. So if we don't have any files, this normally means we have to like buy back our own book, like off someone off Amazon, for example, and then get it destructively scanned so that we can have digital files of this. We used to do that more in the office because we could order books to the office, package them all up and then send them to the scanners. But now obviously it's been tricky because a lot of the scanners are closed. There's like a lot of delays in actually getting the books in the first place. So that's been a little bit annoying at the moment. Similarly to POD, I also work on NIPPODs. So this is new in paperback print on demand. These are a little bit more strict, I suppose, than POD because they're technically new publications. So they have like pub dates and they have certain key dates that you have to stick to. I suppose there's more corrections with these as well because they're kind of new books, new publications. And so I suppose I'm liaising with editorial a bit more about like them telling me what corrections need to be made. So I don't find the corrections myself, it's normally editorial that tell me, you know, there's a mistake on this page, can you incorporate it? I have done a little bit of front list work as well, so this is like new publications, and that's normally there's more key dates to stick to, and I suppose you're working a lot closer with like the project managers. I think there's a lot more proofs of that as well, as opposed to reprints, because reprints you're basically just reprinting the book, it was correct in the beginning, whereas front list titles compared to back list titles, they're new publications, so the book hasn't actually come out yet. Another thing that I do is I manage the author project management survey. So this is after because normally for new publications we hire external project managers, we ask the authors their feedback on that whole production process. So this is like the copy editing, the proofreading, the indexing, overall communication, etc. And this is just like a simple survey for them to complete, and I'm the one that sends it out to them, collects all the results, etc. And it can obviously be really interesting because, I mean, some authors are so appreciative and they have so much to say, and you know, they want to praise certain people for their help. I mean, you do get obviously the authors that are a little bit more difficult, I suppose, and it's kind of like managing their expectations. So that's another one of the roles that I do, and the reason behind that as well is because they are in our contracts with the project managers, like in our SLA, we have like a rule with them: if they consistently get low scores and you know they're performing quite badly, then we're going to end our contract with them. So it's basically just to keep on top of how they're doing, because they're external, we won't be kind of like managing them as such. Just going to go upstairs to get myself changed because it's our Christmas party this afternoon, so I'm going to get something a bit more festive, so wearing red instead of black. Just generally, as a production assistant, I don't really attend a lot of meetings. There is a reprint meeting every Monday that the inventory managers go to. It's not compulsory for us production assistants to go to that. However, I have been to one before just out of curiosity, because like sometimes they discuss your titles that you're working on, so if you want a bit more of insight, context and update on what's happening on that title, then going to the reprint meeting will help that, because They basically decide on any decisions. Do we need to change the recommended retail price, or do we need the reprint quantity to go up a bit more to make the unit cost lower, etc. Since lockdown as well, we've also started a backlist meeting, and this is usually once a week where we talk to the head of our academic production, the other production assistants and the art workers too. So it's kind of a nice way to get in touch with them a bit more, and as the art workers are the ones that are working on our reprint titles, we can just sort of say, hey, is there any update with this, etc. As I said, we only started that in lockdown, so sort of March, April time, and I think it has actually been like really useful, and it obviously gives us that set time each week that we think, okay, if I'm not quite sure on something or I want an update on something, you know that meeting's going to come, so you can bring it up there. I also just want to mention that even between my division, we do different things as production assistants. So for example, my colleague does ebook conversions, and I don't really know much about that at all. So although we work as production assistants, and although we work at Bloomsbury, and although we work in academic, our roles still do differ. It's basically just like splitting the responsibilities between us. So the author survey that I manage, for example, my colleagues don't do that. So it's kind of, yeah, as I said, like splitting those responsibilities between us as a team. I'm also planning another video in the near future on what it's like to be a production assistant in academic as opposed to children's, where I've spoken to some people at Bloomsbury who work in the children's production team. And then yeah, just adding on to this, so we do work as a team, but you are expected to manage your workload on your own quite a lot. So that's one of the things that shocked me quite a lot about joining my role as well. It's quite independently led, so you're basically given your processes, you're given your title and your lists, and you know, you get on with it. Obviously the support is there if you need it, but you're kind of trusted enough to get on with your work, and you know, you're soon to know if you're behind on something. But having said that, yeah, we do work as a team, so if anyone's got any questions, you know, we're all happy to answer each other. We have like a group chat now of us production assistants, so we can like share any experiences, you know, have you come across this before, does anyone know the answer to this? Yeah, and then as production assistants, we just have other kind of general admin roles. Sometimes, for example, if the production editors who are slightly above us, if they've got quite like a heavy workload and need just a little bit of an extra hand, that's a possibility. Yeah, any other admin tasks to support the team. Yeah, so the things about being in production, I would say it's very self-managed, as I mentioned. You know, you are expected to kind of lead your own workload. I would say as well, there are a lot of spreadsheets involved in my role. I think a lot of the tasks you do naturally just have to use a spreadsheet, and sometimes I just have started using spreadsheets for ease. So I would say as well, like using Excel, for example, is such a good skill to have, and knowing the tips and tricks for that, for example. I recently went to like an advanced training workshop, and that was really, really helpful, just to know those kind of like little tips and tricks that are going to make your work a bit more efficient. And just a general skill I think you need to have to be a production assistant is just be quite organised. You're dealing with a lot of different things, a lot of different titles at once. Being organised will obviously help you massively. So thank you so much for watching my video of a day in the life as a production assistant. I hope it was kind of interesting to you. Obviously, like any job, it's going to vary day to day, and you know, I get some days that are busier than others. And yeah, I hope you learn a little bit more about like what you can expect if you're a production assistant at Bloomsbury. As I said, it will differ from publishing house to publishing house, and even just across divisions. So yeah, so watch out for my next video on being a production assistant in academic versus children's and seeing what the differences are there. Also, thank you so much to all the publishing employees that have got in touch with me so far already about what I posted on my Twitter. If you haven't already seen that, go look at my Twitter. I'll leave the link of my socials in the description below. So yeah, so thank you so much. Please keep emailing me because I'm really excited to get you all involved.